are fighting a war 30 years in the future.
Is this a joke?
Our enemy is not human. We need you to fight.
I got drafted.
I will be back.
The Tomorrow War is a large-scale science fiction action film that blends personal drama with a high-concept global threat, positioning ordinary people at the center of an extraordinary crisis. The story is built around a shocking disruption of normal life when time travelers suddenly appear in the present day with a message that changes humanity's understanding of its future. Their arrival is not mysterious or symbolic. It is direct, urgent, and terrifying. They reveal that 30 years from now, the human race is on the verge of extinction, overwhelmed by a relentless alien enemy in a war that is being decisively lost. This revelation reframes the present as the last meaningful chance to alter a doomed outcome, transforming everyday civilians into potential saviors of the planet. At the heart of the film is the idea that the future is not fixed, but it comes at a cost. Governments around the world respond to the message by organizing a radical and morally complex solution, drafting soldiers and civilians from the present and sending them forward in time to fight in the future war. This decision introduces a powerful emotional and ethical tension as people are asked to leave their families behind and risk their lives in a conflict that technically has not happened yet. The Tomorrow War leans heavily into this tension, emphasizing the fear, confusion, and reluctant bravery of people who never imagined themselves as soldiers, but are forced to confront extinction as a real and immediate possibility. Dan Forrester, played by Chris Pratt, anchors the film emotionally and thematically. Dan is introduced as a high school teacher and family man, someone who once had dreams of a different future, but now lives a modest life, focused on providing for his wife and young daughter. His character represents the average person, grounded, capable, but not heroic by design. When Dan is drafted into the future war, his motivation is not glory or duty in the abstract, but a deeply personal desire to protect his child and ensure that she has a future worth living in. This personal stake keeps the story emotionally accessible even as the scale of the action grows increasingly massive. Once transported to the future, Dan and the other recruits are thrown directly into chaos. The world of 2051 is bleak, scarred by years of war and near-total societal collapse. Cities are in ruins, infrastructure has crumbled, and humanity's remaining forces are stretched thin. The alien species they are fighting is deadly, fast, and seemingly unstoppable, pushing human soldiers into desperate, last-stand scenarios. The film emphasizes shock and disorientation, making it clear that these recruits were not prepared for what they are facing, neither physically nor psychologically. Survival itself becomes a daily struggle, and every mission feels like a gamble against overwhelming odds. A crucial figure in the future timeline is the brilliant scientist portrayed by Yvonne Strahovski. Her character brings intelligence, urgency, and emotional weight to the narrative, serving as one of the few people who understands the enemy on a deeper level. She is not just fighting the aliens with weapons, but with research, analysis, and long-term thinking. Her work represents humanity's hope of finding a weakness or solution that could turn the tide of the war. Through her interactions with Dan, the film explores the cost of living with knowledge of the future, especially when that knowledge includes loss, sacrifice, and the possibility that everything they are doing may still not be enough. The dynamic between Dan and this scientist adds an important layer to the story, blending scientific problem-solving with emotional discovery. Their collaboration is driven by urgency, as time is literally limited in the future war zone. Every experiment, every piece of data, and every decision could mean the difference between extinction and survival. The Tomorrow War uses this relationship to balance action with quieter moments of reflection, allowing the audience to understand not just what the characters are fighting, but why they continue despite exhaustion and fear. Another key emotional thread in the film is Dan's relationship with his estranged father, played by J.K. Simmons. This relationship introduces themes of regret, generational conflict, and unresolved trauma. Dan's father is portrayed as a hardened, survival-minded individual whose past decisions have created a deep rift between him and his son. As the global crisis unfolds, their strained relationship becomes impossible to ignore. The looming threat of humanity's extinction forces both men to confront their personal failures and reconsider what they owe each other as family, not just as individuals trying to survive. The father-son dynamic is especially significant because it mirrors the film's broader themes about legacy and responsibility. Just as the present generation is being asked to fight for a future they may never see, Dan must confront what kind of legacy he will leave behind for his daughter. His interactions with his father highlight how unresolved conflicts can echo across generations, and how survival alone is not enough if emotional wounds are left untreated. The Tomorrow War suggests that saving the world also requires repairing personal relationships, even in the face of overwhelming external threats. The alien antagonists are depicted as ruthless and terrifying, designed to feel like a force of nature rather than a conventional enemy. Their biology, behavior, and sheer numbers make them incredibly difficult to fight, reinforcing the idea that humanity is facing something beyond its control. The film avoids turning the conflict into a simple good versus evil narrative, instead emphasizing how unprepared humanity truly is when confronted with an unknown species that has evolved solely to dominate and destroy. This approach heightens the stakes and makes every small victory feel hard-earned. As the plot unfolds, the story shifts between large-scale combat sequences and more intimate moments of discovery and sacrifice. The Tomorrow War uses these contrasts to maintain momentum while deepening character development. Action scenes are chaotic and intense, emphasizing confusion and loss rather than clean, triumphant victories. At the same time, quieter scenes allow characters to reflect on what they have lost, what they still hope for, and whether changing the future is truly possible. This balance helps the film feel emotionally grounded despite its high-concept premise. The idea of time travel is central to the narrative, but it is treated as a functional tool rather than a philosophical puzzle. The film focuses less on explaining the mechanics in exhaustive detail and more on the consequences of using time travel as a weapon. Sending people into the future to die in a war that has not yet occurred raises unsettling questions about consent, sacrifice, and the value of individual lives when extinction is at stake. These questions linger beneath the surface of the action, giving the story a sense of moral weight. As Dan's journey progresses, his role evolves from reluctant recruit to proactive participant in humanity's survival strategy. His background as a teacher becomes surprisingly relevant, as problem-solving, adaptability, and empathy prove just as important as combat skills. This evolution reinforces the film's message that heroism is not limited to trained soldiers or extraordinary individuals. Ordinary people, when faced with unimaginable circumstances, are capable of courage, ingenuity, and self-sacrifice. The ensemble cast supports the central narrative by representing different reactions to the same crisis. Characters portrayed by Betty Gilpin, Sam Richardson, Edwin Hodge, Jasmine Matthews, Ryan Kiera Armstrong, and Keith Powers each bring distinct perspectives, from fear and humor to determination and grief. Together, they form a cross-section of humanity, united not by ideology or background, but by a shared desire to survive and protect what remains of their world. These characters add texture to the story, reminding the audience that the war's impact is widespread and deeply personal. The film's pacing steadily builds toward a final act that shifts the focus back to the present. The knowledge gained in the future becomes the key to changing events in the present, reinforcing the core idea that the fate of humanity is still undecided. This transition underscores the film's central promise: the future is shaped by the choices made today. The urgency does not disappear when the timeline shifts. Instead, it intensifies as characters race against time to prevent the apocalypse they have already witnessed. Directed by Chris McKay, the film balances large-scale spectacle with character-driven storytelling. The direction emphasizes clarity in action sequences, while maintaining emotional focus on Dan and his relationships. McKay's approach ensures that the film does not lose its human core amid explosions, alien attacks, and futuristic settings. The visual style supports the narrative by contrasting the familiar world of the present with the devastated landscapes of the future, reinforcing what is at stake if humanity fails. Written by Zach Dean, the screenplay blends science fiction concepts with family drama, grounding the story in relatable emotions. The dialogue and character arcs consistently return to themes of responsibility, regret, and hope. Rather than presenting the future as an abstract possibility, the script treats it as a lived reality that demands immediate action. This narrative choice helps maintain tension throughout the film and keeps the audience invested in the outcome. Produced by David Ellison, Dana Goldberg, Dawn Granger, Jules Daly, David Goyer, and Adam Kolbrenner, the film reflects a significant production effort aimed at delivering a blockbuster experience. The involvement of executive producers Rob Cowan, Chris Pratt, Brian Oliver, and Bradley J. Fisher further reinforces the project's scale and ambition. The Tomorrow War is designed to feel expansive and urgent, combining spectacle with emotional resonance. The release of the film positioned it as a modern science fiction epic, appealing to audiences who enjoy high-stakes action combined with personal storytelling. Trailers highlighted the shocking arrival of the time travelers, the terrifying alien threat, and the emotional journey of a father fighting for his child's future. These elements collectively set expectations for a film that is both thrilling and heartfelt, promising action while emphasizing the human cost of survival. Ultimately, The Tomorrow War presents a vision of humanity at its breaking point, forced to confront the consequences of its future through the lens of the present. It argues that while technology and weapons are important, the true strength of humanity lies in its willingness to sacrifice, to learn, and to care for the next generation. By centering the story on family, legacy, and choice, the film transforms a global alien invasion into a deeply personal struggle, reminding viewers that the fight for tomorrow begins with the decisions made today.